All right, so today we're looking at Ujjivan Small Finance Bank.
Okay.
You sent us a bunch of reports and press releases
Right.
about their performance for the quarter that ended in December 2024.
Mm-hmm.
So that's Q3 of their fiscal year 2025.
Yeah.
And it seems like you're really interested in how they're doing as they get ready to apply for a universal banking license.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a big move for them.
Yeah.
We've got the formal announcements from the National Stock Exchange and BSE Limited.
Uh-huh.
We've got their press release where they kind of put their own spin on things.
Right.
And then a really detailed investor presentation.
Oh, wow.
So there's a lot to unpack here.
Yeah. So where should we start? What's the big thing here for our listener?
I think the biggest news is definitely their plan to apply for that universal banking license.
Oh.
This is a big deal. This isn't just like a minor upgrade or anything.
Right.
This would let Ujjivan offer a much wider range of products and services, moving beyond their current focus, which is mostly microfinance. So it's a major shift in strategy for them.
Yeah, and they're not being quiet about it either.
No.
The MD and CEO put it right up front in their press release.
Yeah, front and center.
They're planning to formally apply to the RBI in Q4 FY25.
Yeah.
Clearly a top priority for them.
Yeah, and what's interesting is how they're already kind of laying the groundwork for this.
Okay.
Like their loan book has grown to over 30,000 crore.
Wow.
That's a 10% increase year on year.
Uh-huh.
But maybe even more importantly, the makeup of that loan book is changing really fast.
You're talking about the increase in secured loans.
Exactly.
It's now 39% of their total loan book,
Huge.
up from only 28% last year.
Yeah.
So they're really trying to diversify away from that traditional microfinance focus.
Mm-hmm.
But what does that actually look like?
Well, basically, they're moving into lending for things like homes and vehicles and businesses.
Right.
It's less about, those small unsecured loans to individuals
Yeah.
and more about larger loans that are backed by assets. This kind of diversification is pretty typical when you see a bank aiming to become a universal player.
So they're going all in on some specific secured loan segments.
Yeah.
Their affordable housing and micromortgage products are showing really impressive growth.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Which makes sense?
Given the demand for housing in India.
Yeah, exactly.
But they're also seeing success with vehicle loans and gold loans.
Interesting.
Those aren't usually the kinds of products you think of with a small finance bank, are they?
Not really, no.
This is a clear sign they're thinking about the future
Mm-hmm.
and testing out products that they'll need as a universal bank.
That makes sense.
Their MSME loan book is also looking really good.
Okay.
Apparently 0 MPAs since they revamped that whole segment back in April 2023.
That's impressive.
Yeah. It suggests they're being very careful about managing risk in this new area.
Yeah, but this brings up a really important point.
Okay.
How sustainable is this kind of rapid growth?
Yeah.
Especially given the overall health of the microfinance sector.
Right. We can't just look at Ujjivan in a vacuum.
Right.
The microfinance sector in India has been facing some headwinds.
Uh-huh.
So we need to understand, are they outperforming the industry?
Yeah.
Or are there deeper concerns here?
We need to kind of look beyond the big numbers and dig into the details.
Yeah, pay it back layers.
So their collection efficiency is currently around 96%,
Okay.
which sounds pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Even their most stressed loans, what they call Bucket X,
Right.
are showing improvement.
Okay.
For those who don't know,
Yeah.
Bucket X refers to loans that are really overdue
Mm-hmm.
and at the highest risk of default.
Yep.
So on the surface, it looks like they're handling things pretty well.
It does.
Wouldn't you say?
They are, but I'm more interested in the data they shared on lender overlap.
Okay.
This tells us how many of their borrowers have also taken loans from other places, which can be a sign of risk.
Yeah, the more lenders involved, the higher the chance that a borrower might default if they're overextended. So what does the data tell us?
Well, what's interesting is the percentage of borrowers with loans from 4 or more lenders is actually going down.
Oh.
So this suggests that they might be tightening up their lending criteria
Okay.
and focusing on less risky borrowers.
That's a good sign.
It is.
They also mentioned selling off 270 crore of stressed loans
Yeah.
and adding a 30 crore accelerated provision this quarter.
Trying to clean things up.
Exactly.
Get ready for potential future losses.
Right. But even with those moves, their gross non-performing asset ratio, or GNPA,
Why?
stands at 2.7%.
Yep. Still something to keep an eye on.
So we need to figure out what's driving this.
Mm-hmm.
And is this a red flag?
Yeah. Is this something to worry about?
So they're taking steps to manage risk on the asset side.
Yeah.
But what about their liability strategy?
Okay.
We know that a stable and diverse deposit base is crucial for any bank.
It is.
especially one that's aiming to become a major player, like a universal bank.
Absolutely. And to their credit, they do seem to be making progress.
Right.
Their total deposits have grown by 16% year on year,
Right.
reaching over 34,000 crore.
Wow.
And their ISCASA ratio,
Yeah.
which is the proportion of those low-cost deposits.
Right. Current accounts and savings accounts.
Exactly.
Yes.
Is a healthy 25%.
So a higher SASA ratio is generally good for a bank's profitability, right?
It is, and it means they have access to a cheaper source of funds,
Mm-hmm.
which gives them more flexibility when they're lending.
Yeah, makes sense. But you said they're also being strategic about the types of deposits they're going after.
Yeah, their press release highlighted their focus on building a more granular deposit base,
Uh-huh.
especially from retail customers.
What does that mean?
It means they're attracting deposits from a wider range of people,
Okay.
rather than relying on just a few big institutional depositors.
Okay.
This fits with their goal of serving a broader customer base
Mhm.
as they become a universal bank.
So it sounds like they're really trying to build a strong foundation for their growth.
Yeah.
And that connects with their recent 81 license too, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
This allows them to target some more affluent segments,
Mm-hmm.
like non-residents and corporate salaries,
Yeah.
and traders, offering them, more specialized products.
Good move.
It is a lot to take in, but this gives us a good sense of where they stand in terms of their loan book and their deposit strategy.
Agreed.
But we haven't even talked about their financial performance this quarter.
Oh, right. We should get into that.
I know you're eager to talk about the numbers.
Always eager to talk numbers.
On the surface, it's a bit of a mixed bag.
Okay.
Their net interest income is up a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
but their pre-provision operating profit is down by a significant 21%.
Wow.
And their profit after tax took a big hit,
Oh, okay.
dropping by 64% compared to the same quarter last year.
Right.
Those aren't exactly the numbers you expect from a bank that's on the edge of a major expansion.
No, not ideal.
So what's the story here?
Yeah.
Is it purely higher credit costs dragging them down,
Mm-hmm.
or are there other factors at play, like maybe rising operating expenses?
Let's dive into their financials and see what we can find.
Okay, sounds good.
Their net interest margin, which is a key measure of profitability,
Yeah.
has been relatively stable
Okay.
for the past 9 months,
Uh-huh.
hovering around 9%,
Okay.
which is actually a good sign.
So if their core lending business is still making money,
Yeah.
what's causing the decline in their overall profit?
Well, it looks like their operating expenses are going up.
Okay.
Their cost-to-income ratio,
Uh,
which measures how efficiently they're managing costs,
right.
has increased from 54% last year
Mm-hmm.
in the first 9 months to 60% this year.
That's a pretty big jump.
It is.
Rising operating expenses could definitely cut into their profits,
Definitely.
especially if they're not matched by revenue growth.
Right, and we can't forget about their credit costs, which are definitely playing a role in the lower profitability.
Hmm.
They said in their reports that they expect credit costs to peak next quarter.
Okay.
So we'll have to wait and see how they manage that.
So it sounds like there's a lot riding on their ability to control those costs
Yeah,
and keep a good balance between risk and growth.
absolutely. Managing those two things will be key to their success.
Yeah.
Both in the short term and as they make this big transition to a universal bank.
Okay, so we've covered their plans for a universal banking license.
Yep.
We've talked about their push into secured lending,
Mm-hmm.
their deposit strategy,
Uh-huh.
and their kind of shaky financial performance.
Yeah.
It's a lot to think about already.
And we haven't even gotten to their 6 key growth strategies yet,
Oh, right.
or their focus on ESG.
There's so much more to explore.
Lots to dig into.
Let's take a break and then we'll dive into those details next.
Sounds good.
Stay with us.
Okay, so let's dig into those 6 growth strategies that Ujjivan has laid out.
6.
It is. It's a pretty ambitious plan.
Well, it makes sense given how big their goals are.
Yeah.
But how do these actually connect to their goal of becoming a universal bank?
Okay.
Which ones should our listener really pay attention to?
Well, the first one is all about offering a really wide range of products.
Okay.
This might seem obvious,
Right.
but it's super important for any bank that's trying to attract a bigger customer base.
Right. They can't just stick with microfinance products if they want to appeal to those more affluent segments they're going after.
Exactly. They need things like checking accounts, savings accounts,
Mm-hmm.
investment products, loans for homes and businesses.
The whole shebang.
Yeah, a full suite of offerings for a diverse customer base.
Okay.
And their second strategy is just as important,
Right.
focusing on digital banking and analytics.
Yeah. In today's world, you got to have a good digital experience.
Absolutely. It's not enough to just have a website and an app.
Right.
You need to invest in user experience, personalized services, maybe even artificial intelligence.
Right. Make banking easier and more efficient.
Exactly. And Ujjivan seems to get that.
Oh.
They're putting a lot of money into their digital platform, partnering with fintech companies, and figuring out how to automate processes.
They even highlighted their Hello Ujjivan app in their presentation.
They did, didn't they?
Yeah, they seem pretty proud of it.
It is a big deal. They're positioning it as a way to stand out,
Okay.
especially for their microfinance customers who might be new to digital banking.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's available in a bunch of different languages.
Oh, wow.
Offers features like digital loan acknowledgments,
That's cool.
and even has a chatbot for customer support.
So it sounds like they're really making an effort to bridge the digital divide
Yeah.
and make banking accessible to everyone.
Exactly. And that ties in nicely with their fifth strategy,
Okay.
which is all about continuing to improve financial and digital inclusion.
So it's not just about giving people the technology. It's about giving them the knowledge and the tools to manage their money well.
Exactly.
They mentioned working with Paranam Foundation to offer financial literacy programs. And they even have a program specifically for nano entrepreneurs.
That's great. They're taking a holistic approach,
Yeah.
thinking about the long-term well-being of their customers
Yeah.
and the communities they work in.
It shows a real commitment to responsible banking.
And sustainable growth. And speaking of sustainability,
Okay.
we got to talk about their third strategy,
Right.
building a stable and diverse deposit base.
Super important.
We touched on this earlier, but it's crucial for their success in the long run.
Absolutely.
Right.
They're trying to attract more retail customers,
Okay.
especially those with higher balances, to move away from relying so much on microfinance deposits.
That makes sense.
This will help them lower their overall cost of funds and give them more room to lend and support their growth.
So their fourth strategy, strengthening their distribution and collection network.
Seems pretty straightforward.
It is. It's about reaching more customers and making things more efficient. They're using physical branches, digital channels, and partnerships to reach more people and make it easier for them to bank with Ujjivan.
And then there's sixth and final strategy.
Right.
Diversifying their revenue streams.
Yeah. Making money from more than just lending.
So things like treasury income fees and processing charges.
Exactly. They need to boost their bottom line.
Right.
Relying too much on interest income can be risky.
Especially with all the ups and downs in the market.
Exactly.
So they're really trying to create a business model that can weather any storm.
Yeah, they're thinking ahead, anticipating challenges, and putting everything in place for long-term success.
That's a great point. They're not just reacting to the market.
Right.
They're trying to shape their own future.
Exactly. But the big question is, will it work?
Well, they've definitely got a lot to do. The competition in Indian banking is tough.
It is.
And we've seen that their recent financial performance has been a little iffy.
Yeah. But what's interesting is how willing they are to adapt and evolve.
Oh.
They're not afraid to try new things and challenge the status quo.
So they're a good example for anyone interested in how the banking industry is changing.
Absolutely.
So as they embark on this journey, what should we be watching?
Oh.
What will determine whether they succeed or fail?
Well, for starters, keep an eye on their asset quality.
Okay.
Will this push into secured lending pay off?
Yeah.
Or will they run into problems?
Especially in those newer areas for them, like vehicle and gold loans.
Exactly. Those are uncharted waters for them.
Right. And then there's the deposit strategy.
Yeah.
Can they attract those wealthier customers and build that stable and diverse deposit base thereafter?
And let's not forget about their digital transformation.
Right. Will their investments in technology actually create a seamless and engaging experience for customers?
It's a lot to watch.
It is. Ujjivan is at a crossroads.
Yeah.
They had this big, bold vision. But the path ahead is full of unknowns.
It's going to be fascinating to see how it all plays out.
Absolutely.
Okay.
But before we wrap up,
There's
one more crucial piece of Ujjivan's story we need to talk about.
Right.
They've got a whole section in their investor presentation on their ESG initiatives.
ESG is a hot topic these days.
It is. It's not just about financial performance anymore.
Right.
It's about a company's impact on the world.
And Ujjivan seems to be taking it seriously.
Yeah.
They've got specific goals. They're tracking their impact. They're even aiming for a formal DJSI assessment by fiscal year 2025.
Wow, that's a globally recognized sustainability benchmark?
It is.
And they're making their sustainability report public too, right?
They are. They're being very transparent.
Okay.
It's all right there. Their efforts to save energy, their responsible waste management practices,
Yeah.
even how they dispose of e-waste.
They're not shying away from the tough stuff.
Nope.
And it's not just about the environment either.
Right.
They have a whole section on their social impact,
Okay.
including their Diksha Plus financial literacy program.
Yeah, that one's particularly interesting.
Oh, why is that?
They're targeting not just current customers,
Right.
but also potential customers and even people who aren't banking with them yet.
They're trying to reach as many people as possible with financial education.
Exactly.
That's impressive.
And they also highlighted their Kisan Pragati clubs.
Oh, right. Those focus on supporting farmers.
Yeah, which makes sense given their move into agricultural loans.
It's a smart move.
It is.
It shows they're thinking about the long-term sustainability of their business and the communities they serve.
They're not just taking value, they're adding value.
It's like they're trying to build trust and goodwill.
Yeah, which is really important when you're working with vulnerable populations. Right.
And their employees are getting involved too.
Oh, so.
They said over 5,000 employees are taking part in community engagement activities.
Wow.
It helps build a culture of social responsibility within the company.
This gives us a more complete picture of Ujjivan, doesn't it?
It does it. They're more than just numbers on a spreadsheet.
They're a company with a conscience.
And that could be a big selling point for them, especially as consumers start to care more about the ethics of the businesses they support.
So we've covered a ton of ground here.
We have.
We looked at their financials, their loan book, their deposit strategy, their growth plans, and their ESG initiatives.
Be a lot.
We're starting to get a clearer picture of who they are and where they're going.
We are, but we need to tie it all together.
Right. What does all this mean for you, the listener?
Exactly.
What are the key things you should keep in mind as you follow Ujjivan's story?
Stay with us as we wrap things up.
And offer our final thoughts. All right, so we've talked a lot about Ujjivan Small Finance Bank.
Their financials, their loan strategy, all that.
Their plans for becoming a universal bank.
Yeah, all of that.
Yeah.
Their ESG stuff too.
Right, which is a big deal these days.
So hopefully you, the listener, have a pretty good understanding now.
Yeah, a good sense of where they are and where they're headed.
But like any company, there are definitely challenges.
Of course. There are always risks.
Their financial performance lately hasn't been stellar.
Yeah, a little shaky.
And this big push into new lending areas could be risky.
Yeah, if we're not careful.
They got to manage those risks.
Absolutely.
Keep those credit costs under control. Attract the right kinds of deposits.
Yeah.
Make sure the digital transformation goes smoothly.
That's a lot to juggle.
It is a tall order. But they seem pretty determined.
They do.
Yeah.
And we can't forget about the competition.
Right. The Indian banking sector is packed.
So crowded.
Traditional players, digital players, everyone's fighting for market share.
Exactly.
Right.
Ujjivan has to find a way to stand out.
And prove that their way of doing things is sustainable.
That's the key.
This whole ESG thing could really help them there.
It could. More and more people are looking for companies that share their values.
Right. Both consumers and investors.
Ujjivan's focus on financial inclusion, community development, and the environment,
Yeah.
that could really resonate with people.
It's a good story. But ultimately, actions matter more than words.
Absolutely.
You'll want to keep an eye on their progress.
Especially as they move towards that universal banking license.
Yeah. Watch their financial results, of course. But also how their ESG stuff develops.
Do they actually do what they're saying they'll do?
This deep dive has given you the info you need
Yeah, the background to understand what's going on.
to follow along as things develop.
It'd be interesting to see what happens.
It will be. So to wrap up,
Okay.
here's something to think about.
All right.
Ujjivan's operating in a world that's changing fast.
Yeah, no kidding.
Interest rates are going up.
Uh-huh.
Customers are expecting more and more.
Right.
Competition's coming from everywhere.
How will they deal with all of that?
How will they make their mark on the future of banking?
That's the million-dollar question.
Keep your eyes peeled.
And your ears open.
Ujjivan's story is just getting started.
That's for sure. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
We'll see you next time.